everyone, Teri Wellbrock here. Just wanted to take a moment to, one, welcome you to the show, and two, thank you for being here, for sharing and helping others find this inspirational podcast filled with amazing, hope-filled conversations. As I've said before, I learned so much from these interviews myself as a survivor, and I know I walk away. As a matter of fact, I just did an interview with someone who does sound healing. I can't wait to put that one out for everyone to listen to. And I'm on day 4. I think I did day 4 or 5 today of her. She had a 31-day challenge on YouTube, and so I said, "Oh my gosh, I'm totally going to do this," and I'm loving it. I'm loving it. So yeah, I practice the things that I learn in these amazing conversations from these wonderful guests. So I also wanted to remind everyone again, only because I'm so excited, so I'm going to keep telling you this, to please go to academy.teriwellbrock.com. It's Teri, 1R, WELLBROCK, and check out the landing page that has information about all of the courses and what you will gain from them. The prices go up. They're in pre-sale prices on the 10 and 30 day. The 10 day until July 1st when that launches, and then August 1st when the 30 day launches. So, but I think I'm going to keep the 1 day at $27 until August 1st, so that everybody has access to that special price of $27, that introductory price. I suddenly decided to get the hiccups. I don't know where that came from. So yeah, just go check it out and let others know about it. If you know anybody looking for some guidance, a way to build their coping skills toolbox and learn about the impact of ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and resilience and hope. There's actually hope science, and we talk about that. And just a great resource, I think, at least from the feedback from the beta testers, that they said, "Oh my gosh, Teri, this is so jam-packed with information," which is exactly what I wanted. So to help others build those toolboxes and learn to be your own hero on the 10 day and go from surviving to thriving on the 30 days. So, all right. Well, thank you again for being here. I feel blessed to be doing this as my soul work, and just so glad you're here. All right, now for the show. Welcome, everybody, to the Healing Place podcast. I am your host, Teri Wellbrock, and so excited to have with me today John Giordano. And he is an addiction, trauma, and recovery expert, certified hypnotherapist, author, entrepreneur, and 75 medical and peer-reviewed journal research papers. Welcome, John.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I'm so excited to talk to you because I know you and I had a little bit of a conversation through Podmatch where we connected, and I told you my 85-year-old mother is coming up on 2 years sober, and just so darn proud of her. So the work you're doing in the world of addiction recovery is just a beautiful gift. So thank you.
Well, I wanted to give back a couple of things also. I have 36 years in recovery myself, and I'm also a chaplain for the North Miami Police Department. I do a lot of stuff. And, my whole life's work is helping other human beings to help themselves. Us therapists, we don't fix anybody. People fix themselves. All we do is guide as best we can. And that's what, to me, therapy is all about. I've treated, I don't know how many thousands of people over the years. I used to own a 62-bed inpatient facility that we did dual diagnosed clients. That meant you had other mental health issues as well. I worked with Dr. Kenneth Blum. He's the geneticist who found the addiction gene. There is an addiction gene, that's for sure. And we did gene testing there. We did all kinds of research there. It's amazing what's really come out of all this research that we found. And So what I look at, what I do my best to try to get out there to the public is there's only a 5 to 8% recovery rate in addiction treatment. And there's a good reason for it. And the reason is we're not treating people holistically or comprehensively, using holism as an approach to treating human beings. In addiction, we only look at really the psychological piece. If you have a trauma, and all of this is, is really important as well. You know, trauma absolutely has an effect with addiction. Uh, but there's also other things that are co-contributing factors. You know, people that have been sexually abused or abused emotionally, uh, people that have PTSD. Uh, there's all kinds of different things that are co-contributing factors to addiction. But the things we're not looking at is kind of interesting. First of all, there's such a thing as the microbiome or microbiota. What that all means is that's the flora in your gut. Okay. But what your gut does, which we call the second brain in science, is it produces dopamine and serotonin, about 90% of it. So dopamine and serotonin are your feel-good drugs that your body manufactures naturally. And that's actually what us addicts and alcoholics chase is the serotonin and dopamine rush by doing drugs or behaviors. So we're not looking at H. pylori, leaky gut syndrome. That all has to do with the gut. Okay, these are things that cause depression and anxiety, and it's also suicidal ideation if it gets that severe. There's also hyperglycemia. Most addicts, most alcoholics have that because of the sugar that's in alcohol. And then when you take away the alcohol, they crash. So then you got a low thyroid, which causes depression and anxiety, and it also can cause suicidal ideation. We have closed head injuries. Who's going to argue that drugs and alcohol do not affect the brain and damage the brain? We're
Right.
not looking at that either. So what happens is a client comes in, we give them what is known as a psychosocial, and we look at their past experience, what drugs they were on board, their education, how many treatment centers they've been to, if they've been to any at all, um, any traumas that they can think of or anything like that. But we really don't look at them totally. So what happens is they come in, they start exhibiting, they're depressed or they have anxiety, and we throw medication at them.
Right.
Now, what a lot of people don't know is if you don't medicate clients when they come in, insurance companies say, well, they don't need to be there. They're not sick enough. So that's a little strange because when you come off of drugs, all right, you're going to have depression and you're going to have anxiety, but not forever. Maybe for a week or 2 weeks. Now, maybe some people have that to begin with, and some of them may need medication for a while. See, a lot of people don't understand. Medications that psychiatrists give, it's really like an educated guessing game. They don't really know exactly what's going to work on somebody. They have a good idea, but they don't really know. And medications are only meant for short-term intervention, not long-term. But my own personal bias is I believe when the pharmaceutical companies figured out that they can put people on long-term medication, we're like walking cash registers for them. Now, I'm not against medication, but there are alternatives to help people that nobody's really talking about too much. And what I learned when we had a treatment center, I had 62-bed inpatient facility. What we did is we did hyperbaric medicine. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not.
Okay. Hyperbaric medicine was used for the bends. It's been around for about 100 years. It's oxygen under pressure. So they put them in these tanks and they drop the pressure down. They build the pressure up until the nitric oxide got out of their blood system. And then they were able to come out of the chamber and out out walking around. Then they found out that it can also help with wound healing. And now they found out that it can help with TBI cases, traumatic brain injury cases. And I use it also for addiction. So what's in Israel, which is really interesting, they just found out if people are using hyperbarics, they just did a whole paper on it for 5 days a week at 90-minute intervals at 3 months at atmosphere of two atmospheres for 3 months, they increase their telomeres 20%. Now, telomeres are the ends of chromosomes, and that's your biological age. As we get older, those little strings, the telomeres, get shorter. So they increased it 20% to make it longer. And I also figured out that it can also work for addiction. And we helped a lot of people that had actually their brains were damaged. And we used hyperbarics. We also used amino acid therapy, which helps build neurotransmitters, but helps it function better and helps also upregulates dopamine. We did experiments with that, with fMRIs, CAT scans, and we noticed we did a double-blind study, with the placebo. Nobody knew which was what. And the bottom line is that we saw that it upregulated dopamine with natural amino acids.
Wow.
Acupuncture, which also helps. It's only been around 5,000 years. I mean, what the heck do we know? Is there any questions you want to ask me?
No, I mean, I could sit and listen to you talk about this, but one, I just did acupuncture recently for the first time 2 months ago, for the first time in my life, and it was amazing. I'm a huge new fan of acupuncture at 55 years old. So yes, but so now your work, you obviously write research papers about all of this amazing research, but do you work with helping addiction agencies and centers and others to implement strategies to utilize these things?
I'm glad you asked that question because let me tell you what's really going on. Okay. People think that the owners of treatment centers actually run the treatment center. They don't. You know who runs the treatment center? Take a guess.
The insurance companies.
You got it. They tell you how long to keep a client.
Yeah.
Okay. What kind of therapy to give them that they will pay for. And they want them out of there as soon as possible.
Yes. I remember going through it with my mom and her being in rehabs, and I would have to argue and fight that she's not ready to go home. She's going to dive right back into that bottle of vodka.
Well, here's the deal. Now, most people don't know this, that it's the model of the 28 days is 70 years behind the times.
Wow.
In 1950, two young men who were students, one wanted to be a psychologist, one wanted to be a psychiatrist, came up with this 28-day model. No experience, by the way, but they figured out 28-day model should work. And it was really based on alcoholism, which is completely different, believe it or not, than drugs. Alcohol takes a longer time to destroy the brain and the liver and everything. Drugs do it pretty quick.
Yeah.
And they talked to Hazelden, and Hazelden at the time spread it to the insurance companies, and they got this 28-day model, which is absurd. Okay. First of all, a person goes to detox, but it's not even a detox because to detoxify means to take toxins out of the body, not put other ones in. So really what they need to call them is stabilization units, because as soon as their blood pressure is stable, okay, they're allowed to leave. Did they do that with your mom?
Yes. Yes. I mean, when my mom would go through detox, obviously they were giving her medications.
Right.
And she
They
would
were giving
still
her
have,
Valium or
yeah, and
benzos.
she would still have hallucinations and still be going through so much of trying to get those toxins out of her body, but she would still say things and it just took her a while to get back to her normal self when she had nothing else in her body. They'd stopped giving her, and they were getting ready to like kick her out of the hospital or kick her out of the rehab center.
Well, see, here's the deal. You come out of detox or stabilization, whatever you choose to call it. Okay. Now, if you're fortunate enough, you go to treatment, let's say, right? All right. So you're still reeling from the detox and you're still in a fog. Okay. You're not putting information together very well. all right? Uh, they make you fill out all these papers, all right? And it's really interesting. I did a little thing, a little experiment. I had our therapists have them fill out these psychosocials as soon as they get in, okay? And 2 weeks later, we had them do it again. It was like two different people. So their brains are offline for, let's say, to where they can comprehend information for at least about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, depending if they're a fast metabolizer or a slow metabolizer and how their liver is functioning. So now that they're 2.5 weeks, they maybe bond with a therapist, maybe, okay? And then they have to leave because it's only 28 days. Now the insurance companies are trying to make it 2 weeks. So this is how absurd, and none of the administrations, neither did the last administration, so far this administration, nobody's looking at what the insurance companies are doing. You know, they're in the business of not paying.
Right.
Treatment centers are in the business of getting paid. So you got a big disconnect there.
Right. So what is there a is it looking at the individual and determining there is no set amount of time, or is there a magic number for?
Okay, that's another good question. Okay, and here's the answer that I usually give is real simple. Depending on the severity of the illness, on what drugs or alcohol, how much alcohol they were taking, they usually need anywhere from 60 to 90 days. And there's a program, which is the Physicians Referral Network. Doctors that have been caught using drugs or, have turned themselves in to this organization, okay, where they have to go to treatment for 90 days, and then they have 5 years of aftercare, which they get checked every week. They happen to have an 85 to 90% recovery rate.
Wow.
Now, here's the silly part, just from a business standpoint. Here's the insurance companies, okay, trying to cut the time back. But what they don't realize, I guess, is that, look, you go to treatment, let's say, right? You come out of treatment, you're out about 2 weeks, you relapse. Now you go back into detox. You come out of detox, you go to another treatment center. You stay there for 2 weeks, 28 days. 3 months, a month later, you relapse again, you go to another treatment center, another detox. Well, look at all the money that the insurance companies are spending instead of doing it right the first time. So it's like really like stupid if you really take a look at it. But no one's looking out of the box. Everybody's got this narrow view of the world.
Yes. Oh my gosh. How many times my sister and I had this conversation, and we would argue with the hospital that my mom kept going to every 2 months, 3 months. And we'd say, this is the same pattern over and over and over. And they would hand us the same pamphlets over and over and over and say, have her contact this place, have her go here, try this. And it just, and she would refuse. And then 2 or 3 months later, we'd be back at it again.
Well, you see, now you have a personal experience, and everything I'm saying, you realize,
Yeah.
Wait a second, that's what we went through. This is how crazy this is, and there's kids dying left and right. And unfortunately, they're not looking at what are the co-contributing factors to addiction. I mean, there's a lot more to the human body than just the psychological part. Of course, there's a spiritual part, there's an emotional part, there's a mental part, and there's a physical part.
Yeah.
So that's just the way it is. And we're not looking at everything. We're just looking at a few things.
Yes. Well, that's why I just love the idea of holistic. We talk about holistic on the show so often, and it's just imperative, absolutely imperative to just look at, and the genetic part of it, like, what's trauma has been inherited. I mean, there's so much that we're starting to find out about the impact of trauma, about your spiritual connections, about energy, about toxic relationships, about all of this impacting each individual. So, yeah.
Let's look at something else, for instance. If you ever take a look at drug addicts or alcoholics drink their lunch and their dinner. Addicts, they do the same thing. They just throw frozen pizza in the microwave or having all processed food and a lot of sugars. So their whole diet's out of whack. So what do you think their body and their mind's going to be?
Right.
So, I mean, this is just common sense that these treatment centers, and then what the treatment centers do, which is really interesting, they give them $50 or $75 to go out and buy food and bring it back in. So what do you think they're going to buy? The same garbage they've been putting in their body. So that's also what's causing them to be sick. And people don't realize that. And since they didn't learn this in treatment, when they go out, even the ones that stay clean and sober, okay, if they don't change their diet, most addicts and alcoholics, okay, die early from diabetes. They die of heart conditions, strokes. It's just amazing what happens to them. Because if you ever see opiate addicts, they blow up and they put on 40, 50 pounds. And that's not healthy for the rest of the body.
Right.
Because now they're trying to medicate themselves with food, the wrong kind. And most of them don't exercise, all right? They don't have any spirituality. They don't have nothing to hold on to. They go to self-help groups and they say, oh, that's not going to work for me. And what I tell them is real simple. How's your way working? I mean, it's just that easy, I'm a kid from the South Bronx. I'm a street kid. You think I'd be going to these meetings and having a sponsor and working these steps and doing all this stuff if it wasn't helping me? Forget it. You know, it's like, but that's what happens. People don't believe in anything because they don't believe in themselves.
Yes. Well, and again, I know I keep coming back to my mom, but it just correlates so much with what you're saying. My mom went to an AA meeting at 83, and then she came home and I said, how was it, Mom? And she said, I'm not going back to that. That's just a bunch of drunks. And I said, because she so wasn't seeing herself as that. And then she
Of
never went
course,
back.
of course, it's denial.
Yeah.
you know? And what happens is with some of them, and maybe not your mother, but I don't know, that they stop drinking, okay, but they're dry. So all the behaviors and all the things are all the same. And that's another issue. And alcoholics, if they're not drinking, you gotta watch them real carefully because they could start taking pills.
Yeah.
They take Valiums because Valiums go with alcohol. It's the same receptor sites.
Right.
So that's another thing. The Xanax, benzodiazepine, all these different benzos that they take. So they didn't go anywhere. They stopped drinking and now they're doing pills. Same thing.
Right. Right.
They didn't go
All right. So let's take a left turn down fantasy lane for a minute. And what would be the solution in a world where you could have the solution you dream of?
Okay. Well, my treatment center, what we did is we did allergy testing because even allergies can cause depression, believe it or not. Okay. We did a thorough examination on them as far as looking at their thyroids and looking at all the other things we spoke about earlier. Um, we also did the amino acid therapy. We also did massage, and not to be fancy, but what people don't realize, drugs are in the cells of your body. So what you have is lymphatic massage gets that out of your body. Saunas also gets all of that out of all these toxins out of your body. People don't realize. So that's what we did. We did hyperbarics and we did all the other therapies. We did family therapy. Family therapy is very important because what happens is usually the family sometimes is sicker than the person that's in treatment because they're addicted to them. They become enablers, they become codependents,
Right.
okay? And they just continue the process on and on and on and on and on. So you have to treat everything. It's like a mosaic. And that's the way you treat addiction. And they need to go to meetings. They need to either that or church, wherever the heck, whatever floats their boat. I don't care. Okay, if it's working for them, keep doing it. But they really need to look at their diet. They have, even at 82, 83, they have to exercise. See, what exercise does is does a couple of things. One, It improves dopamine.
Hmm.
Two, it gets rid of stress. Stress depletes dopamine. So you got that kind of thing working. So you have to exercise. And I'm going to be 75. I mean, I work out, I work out with the weights, I work out with swimming. I'm a karate guy, so I work out with, you know, sparring and stuff like that. I don't expect your mother to do that, but maybe she can. I don't know. But you know what would be great for your mom? Tai Chi. And the Chinese do that. They're 90, 95, they're doing that.
Yeah.
Very soft exercise, but it's good for the internal organs. And as far as that, also eating properly. Getting old is one thing, or getting older, let's put it that way. But you want to have a quality life. Who wants to get older and be sick and, be
Yeah.
unable to really enjoy life?
And I love that you brought this all up because she really is. She's working out. I mean, she walks is what her
But
workout is, and she's an amazing cook. So now she's decided to start cooking for all of the, as she calls them, old people in her retirement village. It's so she makes these vats of soup. I mean, she loves to cook, so she does these vats of soup, and so that is giving her something that she feels good about,
right,
and she gives all credit. She has a picture of Jesus hanging on her wall and says, every time if I feel like I need a drink, I just talk to Jesus and, I tell him he needs to get me through it. And then he does. And so she has that faith component. And so, yes, all those things you've talked about, I truly believe is what kept her sober for
and
almost 2 years now.
social environment
Yeah.
because they get bored, they get lonely, you
Right.
know, and they have all the shame and the guilt that they're carrying around for the past years of things they've done. So that's where you go to, at least go to a therapist and work through some of that stuff. Because addicts and alcoholics, we beat ourselves up unmercifully. You know, the old way of doing treatment is they put you in the middle of the room and everybody attacks you. They break you down and then they build you back up. But I don't know. I don't think that's a good idea because I didn't need anybody to beat me up. I did a good enough job on my own. You know, so that's what people need to do. They need to exercise. They need to eat properly. They need to get something that floats their boat. I call it like
Right.
making the soup. Okay, being proud of what they're doing, being socially available where they can at least do something instead of sit home and ruminate. See, and that's the worst thing for any alcoholic addict to sit home alone, empty.
Yeah. So back to our fantasy dreamland. So really having facilities that take into consideration everything about the individual and not as a cookie cutter. People aren't cookie cutter
They're not.
folks, right?
Very difficult to find.
Yeah.
See, we sold in 2012. Okay, and what was interesting, see, I have my book that I wrote, The Kid from the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up. I started my treatment center 20 years ago with $300, and we sold it in 2012 for 45 million. If you ever would have told me that in the beginning, I probably would have punched you. Think you're
Right.
making fun of me. I mean, but we never was interested in the money. We're interested, and we're still interested in helping people. Because people helped me that I didn't even know at the time. And I was in total denial. I didn't have a problem. They did an intervention on me, my family. And that's how I got the treatment because my mother said she'll never talk to me again. And the Italian mother, that wasn't who she was. Right? So I said, well, let me go to treatment and give everybody a break, give myself a break, and then everybody will calm down and I won't use as much. So, but I got fortunate. I only picked up what is called a white chip. I only went to treatment once. And I've been on this journey ever since. And it's possible.
Yeah.
And when I started, actually, I was homeless. I got divorced. And what happened was a friend of mine owned a hotel and he loaned me a room. And another friend loaned me a bike. And I had a bicycle. Then we had a jar in the corner where I used to put quarters when I had quarters. And that's where I began my journey. And I used to say, my kids used to come and they used to cry with me, Daddy, why are you here?
Oh,
And, and I'm saying to myself, this is recovery. What the heck am I doing here? This is ridiculous. I'm miserable. And I was miserable in the beginning, but not for too long. I decided to enjoy myself as best I can and figure out how to get out of this. And I did. So that's in the book. It's my whole life story from the beginning to where I am today, just to help motivate people, to show them that no matter what happens in your life, all things are possible.
yes. I use hashtag never give up so often and I love it. Yes, absolutely.
So,
Right.
that's why I do these podcasts. That's why I write books. If you go to my website, John, the letter J, Giordano.com, you'll see all my stuff that I do and had, and you know, and the best I do is to show people, hey, look, it doesn't matter who you. My family was a mafia type family. My uncle was a hitman. My father was a heroin dealer. I mean, when people say, "Oh, my family," you don't understand. I tell you what, I'll lend you mine for a while. Let me know how you do. I make it real simple on them.
Right.
And it doesn't matter. I only went to the ninth grade. And here I am lecturing all over the world to neuroscientists and writing books. And whoever would have thought a million years I would ever do anything like that at all? I was always embarrassed that I couldn't spell very well. Thank God for spell check. You know, so and the bottom line is I do my best to show addicts, look, man, you can do anything. Just don't give up, and reach out for help. You don't have to have all the answers. And
Yes.
that's why we do what you do and what I do to help people.
Wonderful. All right. So anything else that you wanted to touch upon that we haven't had a chance to touch upon yet?
Um, well, if you decide to go to treatment, make sure you check it out really well because some of these treatment centers, uh, what they say they do, they don't do. And if you go to treatment, if they have a group more than 10 people, that's not a group, that's a concert. Okay. So they have to have at least small groups so you can have individual attention. You need to get individual therapy at least once a week, which is plenty if you do what you're supposed to do. People think they have to have individuals every day. No. Okay. Once or twice a week is fine. And eat well, exercise to get rid of the stress. All the things that we went over in this podcast. And you'll do okay. And
Awesome.
make sure you get somebody that's in recovery to talk to. This way they understand what you're going through. If you just go to anybody, they're not going to understand. They're going to go, why can't you just quit? I always think that's a kind of funny statement because I was teaching at one of the colleges, group therapy, and I had psychiatrists in there. It was about addiction therapy. So I had a group and I had mental health people in there, and we had, all kinds of different people in there. And they said, we don't understand why addicts just can't quit. I said, well, I got an idea. So I knew some of them smoked cigarettes because when they were taking a break, I said, tell you what, those who smoke cigarettes, I want you to quit for a month. Oh, you should have heard them. What do you mean? I said, well, you do know cigarettes can kill you, right? They cause cancer, and you're still smoking. So you want to know what addicts are? All right. And how many people drink coffee every morning? Oh, I quit for a month. Oh, well, what is coffee? Coffee's not well, you want to understand what it's like, okay, to quit something, quit that. Okay. So kind of started to get the idea about addiction. I said, now times it by 100 because drugs and alcohol actually change the way the brain looks at things.
Right.
So you just keep going.
Wow.
Doesn't matter how smart, what kind of education you have. Has nothing to do with any of that. And if you have the gene for addiction, okay, that doesn't mean that you're going to be an addict. I want to make that clear because there's such a thing as epigenetics. Now, epigenetics is a social environment can actually change the gene expression. So just because that gene doesn't mean that you're going to be an addict, but means that you can be if you start down that road. That's about it.
Awesome. And you already explained where people can contact you through your website. Any other places that they can reach out?
I'm on Facebook. I do podcasts on Facebook. I'm soon to be on. I am also on YouTube. If you want to learn about addiction and learn what it's all about. I also work with Dr. Deborah Mash. She's a neuromolecular scientist at the University of Miami School of Medicine. Matter of fact, she just retired, but she's a leading expert on plant medicine. And plant medicine is like ibogaine. Ibogaine is the best way in the world to detox people because it really does detox them. And it's a shrub from West Africa that was used as a rite of passage. I still work for her. We worked on the island of St. Kitts for 12 years because it's a Schedule 1 drug. You can't do it here. So if you look up ibogaine and you look up Deborah Mash, you'll see she's one of the pioneers on ibogaine treatment. What it does is it detoxes people. Could you imagine in 24 hours? And when they come out of detox, they don't have any cravings and they want help. Most of them. Some
Yeah,
of them think they're cured, which they're not. And we
right.
always suggest that they go to treatment to work on all these behaviors that they adopted during their addictions. And there's more than one addiction. But people, so we call it Dr. Blum, the geneticist who found the addiction gene, calls it RDS, reward deficiency syndrome. So we don't look at alcohol as alcohol, drugs as drugs. We look at all of it together, even though there's different symptomatology on each one, but they're all in lack of dopamine and serotonin. So everybody has a different footprint. What that means is people gravitate towards different things. Some towards heroin, some towards alcohol, some towards cross addiction, some towards sex addiction, eating disorders, gambling addiction, anything that you do continually in spite of adverse consequences. I think you need to take a look at it because that means you may be addicted. That's it.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, again, I just sit here shaking my head going, wow, wow. Because yes, everything you say just resonates on so many levels. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Well, I
All
hope we can get
right.
across to one person at least. We're doing
Right.
our job.
Yes, absolutely. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us today on the Healing Place podcast. And thank you, John, for being here. And again, for the healing work you're doing in the world.
My pleasure. And if you guys want to see my journey, get my book. You know, the kid
Yeah.
from
And
the South Bronx who never gave up.
I'll put the link in show notes, and then I'll put the book out on my social media sites as well, so you can find the link there. And
And there's another one, How to Beat Your Addiction and Live a Quality Life.
wonderful. Well, I'll put them all out there. So for
Thank you.
sure. Awesome.
All
All right.
right, we're in.
Yay.
Okay.
Everyone, thanks for joining us today on the Healing Place podcast. And remember, until next time, be gentle with yourself.
Yes.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. Teri Wellbrock again. Just wanted to thank you for listening to the episode today and remind you to visit my website as well as the academy.teriwellbrock.com for the courses. But if you go to my website, teriwellbrock.com, you can sign up for my monthly Hope for Healing newsletter, which is also jam-packed with information and strategies and blog pieces and guest blog pieces and links to shows. And just a great space for, again, healing and hope strategies. My daughter is a teenager and she loves Office Ladies podcast. So we've been listening to that driving in the car because she's just learning to drive. And so she likes to drive everywhere we go and she'll turn on Office Ladies. And it's just been so awesome to listen to another podcast and love listening to them talk about their sponsorships. So I thought I'm going to start talking about what it is I can offer to folks. So thanks for, again, being here and being a part of this healing space. I very much appreciate you. All right. Bye-bye.